Hi, welcome to the Gemara on Tet Amud Aleph. We're going to start in the Gemara 9 lines down, but the part that's on here that's already punctuated begins on Chet Amud Bet, and it's the part that was covered in the last video and has been covered in class. So as a reminder, we have the Mishnah, which is on Chet Amud Bet, which speaks about the differences between Sfarim, holy books, and tefillin and mezuzot, specifically with regard to how they're written and language. And then the Gemara, after telling us what's the same between the two categories, then brought a contradictory breita, and the rest of the Gemara is looking at how to solve that contradiction between the Mishnah and the breita. So far we've had three answers. The first one came from Rava, and that suggestion was that we're talking about characters, that the Mishnah is talking about using Hebrew characters versus the breita talking about using other characters. And Abaye challenges that and says, but the Breita seems to be talking about language, not just about characters. The second suggested answer here, Lokasha, was that one represents the opinion of the rabbis and the other of Rashbag. But that doesn't make sense. The Gemara rejects that because Rashbag said that you could translate it into Greek, and that's not reflected in the Breita, so the Breita can't match Rashbag's opinion. And then we had a third suggestion that our Mishnah is talking about Sfarim, about books, and that the Breita is talking simply about tefillin and mezuzot. That's where we got up to in the last video. You've made a structure chart of this. Your assignment for the rest of this is going to be to make a final structure chart. It can be in a table form, it can be a chart, it can be however you want. The goal at the end is to be able to understand the flow of this sugya and understand all the different possible answers and why they're rejected, why they're accepted, and your final question to answer. So that's question number one, and question number two will be the bottom line in this Gemara. So that's where we're going with this, and if there's anything you don't remember from the last video, you're welcome to go back and watch that. So the Gemara asks, tefillin and mezuzot my tema. What's the reason for tefillin and mezuzot? Meaning, since according to this answer that we just suggested, tefillin and mezuzot have to be only in Hebrew. So what would be the reason for that? Mishum tichtiv bahu, because it says about them, vehayu. The word vehayu, you can look up the reference there, dvarim vav vav, but it's vehayu had dvarim ha'ela. These things have to be, they have to be taught, they have to be remembered, they have to be learned. So vehayu, according to the Gemara, behavyatan yuhu. They have to be as they are, meaning that's the indication, that's the hint in the pasuk that you can't change them to a different language. Tefillin and mezuzot can only be in that language. Tefillin and mezuzot, which contain these pasukim, which contain Shema, can only be in that language. My targum shekatvu mikra ika. But what Aramaic that could be written in Hebrew is there? Again, reminding you, the Breita mentions mikra shekatvu targum b'targum shekatvu mikra as being things that would make a book not a holy book, right? So if you have Hebrew that's written in Aramaic or Aramaic that's written in Hebrew, that implies that there is Aramaic text in whatever this work is that could be written in Hebrew. So the Gemara asks, well, what Aramaic do you know of that is in the sections of the Torah that are put inside tefillin and mezuzot? Bishama Torah makes sense to talk about Torah. Ika, there is Yigar Sahaduta. There is this place name called Yigar Sahaduta. The Hebrew name for that would be Gal Ed, like a pile or a monument that is a witness. But this is actually, and you can look this up in Breshit, this is actually Aramaic, according to the Gemara. So it makes sense to speak about Torah having Targum Shekatvu Mikra. But Elahacha, but here, meaning speaking about tefillin and mezuzot, my Targum Ika. Ezo Targum Yesh, what Aramaic is there? So it's not going to work to say the Breita is talking about tefillin and mezuzot because there's no Aramaic in tefillin and mezuzot. Ella lo kasha. Rather, it's not a problem, and here's yet another solution to the contradiction. Kan b'Megillah, kan b'Sfarim. Here, meaning in the Breita, we're talking about Megillah, and in the Mishnah, we're talking about Sfarim. Megillah, my taima. Megillah, what's the reason that you can have Megillah in other languages? What's the reason that Megillah has to be in Hebrew? Dichtiv ba, because it says in it, Kichtavam v'chil shona. in their writing and in their language. So that, according to this reading, that implies it has to be in Hebrew. My Targum Shekatvu Mikra'ika. What Aramaic is there in Megillah that could potentially be written in Hebrew? Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, he quotes from Esther chapter 1, V'nishma pitgam hamelach, that the decree of the king was heard. According to Rav Papa, that pitgam is an Aramaic word. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak gives a different instance of Aramaic in the text of the Megillah. He says it's from here. V'chol hanashim yitnu yikar leba'alehen. All the women should give devotion, or should prioritize their husbands. He's arguing that the word yakar here is not really a Hebrew word, not really a Hebrew usage of the word, that word is actually Aramaic. So that's an answer that doesn't actually get rejected. The answer is that, again, that our mission is dealing with books. Books can be in any language, but the Megillah can only be in Hebrew, and that's what the Breita is talking about. This answer is supported by the fact that there are, according to at least two rabbis, there are pieces of the Megillah that are in Aramaic, and so that answer works, but the Gemara nonetheless suggests a different answer as well. And here it is. Rav Ashi Amar, Rav Ashi said, Kitanya Hahi Bishar Sfarim. That Breita, when that thing was taught, when that Breita was taught, it was talking about other books, which Rashi explains means not Torah, but rather Nevi'im Uktuvim. For Rabbi Yehudahi, and this matches the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Titanya, as we learned in the Breita, another Breita, tefillin and mezuzot in nichtavin ela ashurit. Tefillin and mezuzot can only be written in Hebrew. V'rabotenu hitiru Yavanit. And our rabbis permitted it to be written in Greek. V'haktiv v'hayu. This is the Gemara asking, sort of challenging this, right? Doesn't it say v'hayu? Doesn't it say in the pasuk v'hayu, right? That drasha that we had before, v'hayu b'havyatan yehu, up here. Doesn't it say v'hayu? Ella, rather, ema sfarim nichtavim b'chol lashon, v'rabotenu hitiru Yavanit. No, so we have to rework the language. Sfarim can be written in any language. Right? Not that tefillin and mezuzot can be written in Greek, but that we're talking about sfarim that can be written in any language, and our rabbis permitted Greek. Hitiru, this word hitiru is used. They permitted Yavanit. Michlal de Tanakama asar? Question mark, exclamation point. So the rabbis permitted Greek, but the first part of the statement is sfarim can be written in any language. So it doesn't make sense. It's like it's very inexact language to say, we allow you to write this book in any language, and the rabbis permitted Greek. The first statement is actually more permissive than the second, so why would you use the language of permitted Greek? Greek was already permitted in this Sfarim Nichlavim B'chol Lashon. So that's what the Gemara is questioning. Literally, it means hitiru, right? They permitted, implies that the Tanakama forbade it, but that's not actually what happened, right? Because the Tanakama says you can write in any language. Ella ema, so we're rewriting the Breita a third time. Rather say it this way: Rabotenu lo hitiru shichtavu ela Yavanit. That's better. Our rabbis didn't permit writing it except in Greek. Okay, so again, this is three versions of the Breita. This one said, books can be written in any language, and the rabbis allowed Greek, but they say, no, that's not the way it's supposed to go. It's supposed to say, the rabbis didn't allow you to write books in any language except Greek. Vitanya, and here's the continuation of the Breita, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Af k'shehitiru rabotenu Yavanit, lo hitiru ela b'sefer Torah, umishum ma'aseh detalmei hamelach. Even when the rabbis permitted Greek, they only permitted it for a sefer Torah. Right? Not for Nevi'im Uktuvim, only for a Sefer Torah, and it's because of the story of Talmei HaMelech. So again, this is the last answer that the Gemara offers. Different, right? Our previous answer was that the Mishnah is talking about Torah, and the Breita is talking about Megillah, the Mishnah is talking about Sfarim, and the Breita is talking about Megillah. Here we're saying that the Mishnah is talking about Sfarim, and the Breita is speaking about Nevi'im and Ktuvim. it sounds a little funny to say that we'd be more permissive with translating the Torah than we would be with translating Nevi'im Uktuvim, but that is what we're saying. We're saying that Nevi'im Uktuvim, again, according to this answer, that the Nevi'im Uktuvim have to be in Hebrew, whereas the Torah can be translated at least into Greek, according to this answer, meaning this is what the Breitza says. And the reason is because of the story of Talmei HaMelech, which is the story that that will be given in the next section, which you've already seen once before, but the next video will be about that. So again, I want you to have a structured chart of this Gemara that makes sense to you. It can be a table, it can be a chart, it can have arrows, whatever works for you. And also, please write out for yourself in a way that makes sense to you and you'd be able to explain to somebody else the bottom line of this Gemara, keeping in mind that it's a slightly different pattern than we've seen in the past. There are actually two answers that the Gemara wound up with, two answers that were not rejected by the Gemara. The last one and the second to last one. So make sure that your bottom line indicates that it's really asking you sort of two potential bottom lines, because the Gemara doesn't choose between those two. Okay, we'll stop here.